Let's bring up Matthew Egan, guys, longtime friend of the show.
What's up, man?
What's going on? People thought you hated me. I'm like, no, I can still talk to him on Instagram. Whatever.
Anyway, you I had a problem with.
Anyway, what did you think of all
notes.
this? Oh,
I took notes.
Okay, let's go. Let's cook.
So super fast. Hitler was putting people in furnaces, gas chambers. Like they were stealing their rings. They were like, I mean, what Hitler did, the Holocaust, there's Holocausts, and we call it the Holocaust because what Hitler did was so terrible. So like, highlighting Hitler above and beyond just because of deaths, it's the type of deaths. Like Hitler was a monster to a quadrillion degrees. So that whole defense of like, well, what about? Yeah.
Let's go. Whataboutism. Yeah.
Right. And then the reason I clicked the link, and then I had more thoughts as Casey kept talking. This is what. And sorry to throw Karen Ashley's name into this, but this is and Zillner too. This is what they said to me about you. Was that you were somebody who jumped to conclusions, who wanted to post content that was yellow journal, that was not well researched. Right. And didn't have the respect for the amount of receipts and things that you collect, sometimes for months before you actually form an opinion on something and before you publish something. And so I feel like what Casey was doing here, and I when you put it up on screen, you could see what he said. And it was that what you and Francis was saying was not true. And the fact that it took 7 days, 4 months, and 52 years for him to make some little apology was just really sad. And he needed to apologize to Francis and to you right away. But it felt like he was doing what the others accused you of, which obviously wasn't true because your stuff is very well researched. You find, you track down people like me, whatever. And then Austin St. John, by defrauding the PPP loan program, he harmed families like mine. I was a small business owner during COVID, and they're saying now 75% of the money that was taken from the PPP loan program did not go to keeping people employed. And so by Austin taking all that money, when I went and said, I would like to benefit from this program that's designed for people like me that were suffering because of COVID, there was nothing left because the program had run out of money. And so all these people saw this blank check they could write for themselves, and it wasn't, they had no integrity at all. And so they took them. I had a client that, I think I've talked about this before, that took $275,000, and their business was thriving under COVID. And it just like, it drives me insane because I think we got like one little PayPal grant during like all of COVID, but there was nothing we could do. And we didn't have employees the same way that the system wanted. And so like what we were able to qualify for was like nothing. And so for Austin St. John to defraud that program, I understand, okay, he wasn't going to conventions, some whatever, but they made up a fake business. It's not like they tried to say, hey, I can't go to events. He had his whole scheme with all of those people that it was not remotely genuine. And then when we talk about Austin St. John as a man, one of the first stories he told me, so just to clarify for people who don't know, I worked for Zach McGinnis, but I don't even know what this would have been, like 2014, 2015. And this was right when Austin St. John was doing his comeback tour. And for the conventions I saw him at, his guarantees were like 15 to 20,000, while the other Power Rangers were between 2 and 5 back then. And all the guarantees are a lot higher now if the people are in demand. But what Austin said to me, what Geiger said to me, was that when he was a contractor with the military, he was a medic, not in the military, but deployed. He was on assignment with the military, and he talked about a guy that had like let his guard down during a night watch or something on this base. And I think it was Iraq. Might have been Afghanistan. I think it was Iraq. And he said that when they found out that the guy was like not doing his job, they beat the ever living Brent out of him and like just tore him to shreds. And when you are in a leadership position and you don't educate, when you intimidate, you've now created somebody who's afraid of you, who does not feel like there's not a welcome back from that when your peers beat you like that. And I was his, graphic. I would make the 8x10s that they signed. I'm the one that restored, and it's funny because like I see them at conventions still. I restored all those fan club kits that had the gradient and it had like the helmet off photo in the corner. And I got a new logo and I replaced it with a not pixelated Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And it had the character in the full suit with the helmet on.
you dig, bro. You like to dig.
Yeah, I think Casey was just putting together a video showing his support or him giving Jay grace, and a lot of stuff was cut out. And he self-admitted, he's like, oh yeah, I didn't know about this clip. I didn't know about that clip. Whereas I think everyone sees what I'm doing and you put me in a video, they're going to hold you to that same standard.
Right. And this guy in comment knock for something, I don't know what all that's supposed to mean. But he's saying that I'm saying that ASJ stopped me personally. It's people like ASJ. It's people like that client that I had that took PPP loan money when they didn't need it. Yes. It's like, who was it? Tim Tebow or somebody that applied for unemployment or like food stamps or something when they were like a millionaire.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. So like Brett Favre's get like F Brett Favre, right? Like this is not okay because that money is meant to help people who don't have, right? And COVID for us was really hard because we couldn't get out and meet people. And so there was no networking. There was no our whole sales ability was completely destroyed. And so I'm not saying Austin St. John personally cost me that money, but I'm saying people like him and his co-conspirators, right? Because there were 7 dudes that were indicted.
It was about 18. And then I think it moved up to 22.
There are families out there, real families that did not get those loans because of what they did, and potentially multiple families, real American families that were harmed by what Austin St. John did. And I know they're like, oh, it's just tax fraud. Like people write it off. No, this was a finite resource that they applied falsely to get hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that harmed people. That was money that people needed to keep their homes. That was money people needed to feed their kids to, all of a sudden you got to be on Zoom and you got to get little Billy a Zoom computer and you got to do, there was a lot of expenses around COVID, not to mention everything was scarce. So the prices had gone up, it was a mess.
Yeah.
So, when you think about how well off you were 4 years ago, maybe remember that on November 5th, but that's just me.
What else you got, man?
I'm supposed to say for Cheyenne, don't be like Zach McGinnis. I don't know. What's the line? Okay. Don't be like Zach McGinnis. Stay resilient.
Yeah, we.
I guess she's clipping that for your Discord. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. She's. They have a.
Stay resilient.
Stay resilient, bitch.
a soundboard of everyone saying stay resilient. So if you come on the stream and you say stay resilient, you might get clipped. And she said, thanks, Matthew.
I got my chat up over here on the second one. I'm trying to keep up with it, but great to see you.
Oh man,
you
likewise,
look great.
man. I'm maintaining, still doing this drama, this Power Ranger drama, which is like unbelievable. I wasn't even supposed to be streaming this week. I was supposed to be working on Twitch drama, but they just,
But your stuff has an impact. It really, because I'll tell you,
100%.
The Dan Devey stuff that you published too. He can't even get a venue for his event now.
Oh.
And every couple of weeks he's posted and he said he was going to come on your show. I wish he did.
I reached out to him and said, hey man, I think I don't know if I showed you the message. I'm like, yo, someone said you wanted to do an interview. Just let me know when and where. I reached out to him 100%. He didn't respond. So
wow.
It is what it is, man. But look, I got so many other people.
Great to see you.
Thank you for coming up.